GolfWRX editor Andrew Tursky, and we're here at what's probably the most mysterious golf company in planet Earth right now, Artisan Golf. I got John Hatfield and Mike Taylor. We're gonna go exploring in here and figure out what Artisan's all about.
Guy wants me to make him 4 wedges that are identical. This becomes part of that final QC because there's a relative measurement that we kind of take off of the leading edge, okay? Why is that important? Well, all a sole grind does is establish the relationship of the leading edge to the turf that we're playing on. Right. It's either tight or it's loose. But knowing what those dimensions are and knowing that recipe of camber, bounce, and all those things that help us achieve that when you're, using these widths, these angles, these radiuses, in the day, you can measure all those, but how accurate is that resultant of where that leading edge is? So we started measuring that stuff. And I've made wedges here for guys before that, you may make 3 or 4 of them at a time. And you come in here and you find one, hey, that's just a tick high. So you go back, look at those things, make the adjustment, you dial these in, they are truly have been replicated and they are money the same.
So this is about as dialed in as you can get.
It's pretty dialed in, man.
Show us what you're doing.
So we'll just look at this. This basically represents in a square position. We address this wedge. We know that guys in their hands, but this dimension, you bring a wedge in here, you set it down, and you start talking to me about how comfortable you are when you start getting into a shot with this wedge. Yeah. We all know what that's like. Either, oh man, I don't know, I might hit this fat, or I might hit it thin. A lot of that starts with what you see, or I don't feel comfortable if I lay it open a little bit, the leading edge looks too high. Well, those are all things that the people expect us, can you address that? So a lot of that starts with this. So we just start with, a 0 measurement, and then, we've got some various geometry under this wedge. But where's this leading edge at right now? Okay. So we measure that.
Get him to zoom in on that real quick.
We measure that, and then that tells us, hey, where are we at with where I've got this wedge started, okay? And you get it right there, and we say, okay, well, there's what that dimension is. Maybe that's not the target I'm looking for Paul, and it's actually not right now. I'm like, well, what are you going to do about it, Mike?
Is that what you said? That's what you asked yourself? What are you going to do about it?
Sure, what are you going to do about it? Because you know where he needs to be, and if you don't do something about it, he's faced with the same deal. Turf interaction's not going to be probably as balanced as I want him to be for him. So oftentimes, hey, because they got some room to work with in these, we make sure that. So I might do this. Best case scenario where I like for a lot, and it's kind of, you guys here today, a lot of this involves, a lot of times when I start, you come in here, know what kind of wedge. It's a matter of what forging I get my hands on. You got some forgings that naturally have a lot of leading edge height, some are not. What's the bounce, what's the width of the raw forging that I start with? Well, that's, so let's say a guy needs to be a little higher. Well, I'll start with a forging that's naturally a little higher, okay? Maybe something that we've all seen, wedges that are low bounce, high bounce. So that oftentimes I'm probably the most comfortable is when I check these dimensions and they're high, because it's real easy to set them down. Man, I'm gonna lower these things so easy and so precisely. It's a little more difficult to raise them up. So, and we've done this, manipulated so many things for players and such for so long. You come in here, you're that guy that needs a 60 and kind of, hey, Mike, how I hit it, I need it to be pretty tall. Oftentimes we take a 58-degree forging and bend it to 60. That gets us 2 degrees of bottom on the thing with a bending bar. And then we'll address any offset issues and things that are, we can manipulate things to what you need to see and how it needs to play. I mean, these benders here, we've done a lot of manipulations on these things, you know.
A lot of history on these.
Well, that's what they're here. That's what they're back here in this area for. This is forgingmanipulation.com, you might say. So that's kind of how that's kind of comes about. But we use, you know, we use gauges and things that allow us, that are accurate enough to support, you know, from a dimensional standpoint, kind of what we're looking for. It's not accident.
It doesn't seem like anything's an accident around here. I think it's all very intentional and
No,
very precise.
but if you look at here how I black this, let's say it's a tiny little bit, because you're looking at some of this, a grind, a 1/2 millimeter, or, you know, for those that work around a machine shop, 20/1000ths of an inch. They don't seem like much, but when you're dealing with where the low grinds are, something that we would consider, you know, maybe, hey Mike, what is a link style grind? Where is that? What is that at? And where is this at? You know, the difference between the really tall ones and the other one's not near as big as you think. It's usually, it's less than 1/8 of an inch, covers the whole spectrum of this per loft. You compare this to irons. You know, our iron products, they're a lot different. The balance of the turf interaction or whatever, they're much lower. But we don't, the situations are different. So these are things that we modify for these tools that we use in those situations. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So let's say, you know, this thing, I think it measured really close to like 250. That's kind of in the middle. Let's say I'm looking for, you know, 280.
Bam.
We'll go right there. And then I can make me a mark on here, okay? Well, when you pull that out of there, oftentimes we can do that with a little leading edge break, okay? Bring that up, then
So you're gonna
I can manipulate.
You're gonna grind this away.
Yep,
You're gonna go back on that wheel and
Yep.
grind that away.
yep.
Okay.
Probably on this one, probably have a scenario where I've got enough to work with there. You get wedges in here a lot of times that the score lines are really close to the leading edge. You get a little bit handcuffed like that. Those are the ones that I would rather work with. They're tall, and then I'll set them down.
Okay.
That's, you know, but in his situation, that I need to get a little more clearance. But there's that little dimension right there, and that's not much. We'll shape that off of there, but what that's going to allow me to do, in the end, what's going to happen here is that I'm going to steepen this bevel a little bit, and then I'm going to pull this part of the sole down too. So we're going to give him that. That's what's going to give him the balance. I know, because I've done a lot of them kind of like that with what he needs. Where I need to help Paul the most right now is really close to the green.
Right.
He's with the length of the golf club that we'll end up delivering to him will help him a whole lot on his bigger yardages, without question, because he's kind of reaching down there. He's not getting much turf interaction right now because he can't get the club to the turf, but that'll be fine. But around the greens is where we'll help him a bunch, because he ain't feeling it, man. He's just not.
Get that grind right, precise, and get some more confidence.
Sure.
There you go. All right, Mike. Thank you
Got
so
it, man.
much. Thanks for
Hey,
letting us
thank
be
you.
a part of it.
Got it.